Hello there. Can everybody hear me? Can I just get someone to say yes that they can hear me? Because yes, thank you, Carrie. Hey everybody. Let me know where you are watching this from. Whereabouts in the world are you? We usually get quite a big global audience. If you let me know if you've been to any of my free trainings before or anything like that. Una's in the UK. Where in the UK are you, Una? Oh, and just put your hi Sharon. Put your drop down menu when you type. Just above it is a blue thing. You want to toggle that down to everyone so that everybody can see what you write. So we've got Liverpool, we've got Minnesota, we've got Toronto, we've got Florida. I'm in Alabama, Toronto, which you can tell by my accent. Rugby. First event. Welcome, Jeanette. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, well, let's go and get started because there's loads that I want to get through here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me just do this. Slideshow. Okay, can everybody see that? If someone can just tell me yes, and can you still see me? Yes and yes. Okay, good. All right. So this is a two-part masterclass today and tomorrow. We'll send you the recording as soon as we get done. But we're going to cover a lot today. Today I want you to kind of leave knowing why you drink. Like, what is the engine behind your drinking? And tomorrow I'm going to go through exactly how to stop. So if you want to know those things, you're definitely in the right place. Okay, so we're going to go through, we need to know what drives our drinking. You can't solve the problem until you know what the problem is. So we're going to cover today, we're going to cover what you need to, what drives your drinking, why just stopping drinking isn't enough, how our brains are working against us, how alcohol makes us want to drink more alcohol, the promise of alcohol, and how we outsource our emotional management. So that's what we're going to cover today in about an hour. And then day 2, I'll focus on the solution. Okay, and I'll make you 2 promises. Hopefully, this is people who work with me. So if you work with me and join any of my programs, these are the promises I make. I will mess up your drinking. I usually I'm a bit more. I say I will F up your drinking. Because I'll reveal to you things you can't unknow, and you'll experience a transformation. So if you want to reach out to me or follow me, you can reach out to me on Instagram or on Facebook. You can private message me there. So make sure you're following me, or if you have any questions afterwards. Everyone doing okay so far? Good, good, good. Okay. I want to ask you this question. Why do you want to stop drinking, and why now? Put it in the chat and let me know. Because I'm going to tell you, you've probably been thinking about this for a while. Generally, and we know this from the research, it takes 10 years, which is a whole decade, from the first minute that we begin to realize that our drinking isn't normal or it's a bit destructive, to actually stopping. And I'll explain why that is in a minute. So why do you want to stop drinking, and why now? Andrea wants her creative life back. Oh, that's fair. Like, tell me, like, in what respect? What do you do creatively? I'm just curious. Sheila, health. That should be number one. Like, absolutely. The best investment you can make in your health is to stop drinking. Sana's saying 10 years sounds right. It's why I'm here. Good, good. Leslie, drinking daily for 10 years, it's going to kill me. It's certainly going to shorten your life for sure. Health and well-being, health. DL, don't want to lose time, getting harder as I'm getting older. Health and pocket, life with alcohol is no fun. Yeah. Oh, you're a songwriter and playwright. That's wonderful, Andrea. I absolutely totally support you reclaiming your creative life. Trisha, want to love myself again. Yeah, all of those things are really good reasons. Health is number one. But I'm going to tell you, sobriety makes your life so much more expansive. What we have to ask ourselves is alcohol delivering on its promises? One of the things I get my clients to do with me when they join one of my programs is we do a cost benefit analysis. So we have a really clear-eyed view of what alcohol is actually costing us. Because we in our culture, we're really good at kind of disguising the costs, right? We're really good at disguising like um what alcohol costs. And how we do that is, I don't know, I used to get really bad hangovers, and um like I'd be around my friends the next day and people would say things like, "Oh, yeah, but it was worth it though." And I'd go, "Oh, yeah." I want to tell you, it was never worth it. It was never worth it. But I told myself that story, that what alcohol brought into my life was worth what it cost, which was the hangovers. But really, well, alcohol costs money, and it's not just the money I spent on drinking. I missed a lot of life opportunities because of drinking. Time, health, relationships, opportunities. So I want you to ask yourself that question: are you getting a good return on your investment with alcohol? Yes or no? Is alcohol delivering on its promises? Yes or no? Is it worth the cost, not just the money, everything else? Put your answer in the chat. And this is like a really good place to start, right? You just got to see it, and it's going to suck. You're going to see it and it's going to suck. But you're in the right place, because we're going to get this sorted out. If alcohol is not delivering, then sobriety is the way, and there's lots of good news about sobriety. Because today is the day you could walk into a brand new life. It happens for everybody. I get messages all the time. I get messages all the time from people I've worked with 20 years ago now. I have people that I worked with 20 years ago, 20 years plus sober. I get people saying, they're 30 days, they're 3 months, they're 3 years. Today could be that day for you. And if you keep showing up, I promise you it's going to happen. If you've got a notepad, write this down. This bit's really important. You've just got to keep showing up. It doesn't matter what's going on, if you had a drink yesterday or not. Keep showing up in sober spaces. And if you keep doing that, eventually you will hear the thing that you need to hear, or have the experience that you need to have, or read the thing that you need to read, that finally embeds sobriety. Now, I want you to know that I did not show up like this. So here I am, I'm 52 years old. I look like a responsible adult, right? And I look like I've always been this way, like confident, articulate, all of that kind of stuff. I really want you to know this about me, that is not the case. And here's some pictures of me. Fortunately, I am going to say I did all of my drinking in the pre-digital era. So these are all photos that, like photos that I scanned in, because I just want you, I know people experience me like this and they find it hard to believe that I was in their shoes once. And I want you to know that I was in your shoes. Yeah, go ahead, ask a question. I don't know who you are because it's anonymous, but go ahead and ask your question. The picture that really haunts me is the picture in the middle where I'm wearing all those that gold stuff and beads, and I just think my eyes look like I'm dead on inside. Those pictures are taken, by the way, in Key West at Mardi Gras. Not Mardi Gras, Fantasy Fest, if anyone knows what that is. So I stopped drinking. My last drink was May 1st, 2000. My sobriety date is May 22nd. I have been continuously sober since that day. I was 27 years old when I stopped drinking, and I wasn't lucky. I wasn't smart, and I wasn't insightful. I was none of those things. I was completely and utterly desperate. Like desperate. I was so desperate. I was hanging on to my sanity by my fingernails. I was very lonely. I was very alone. And I only stopped drinking because I was out of options. I tried everything else to fix myself, and not drinking was like the last thing like that I was going to try. So I really want you to know that I did not show up like this. So the alcohol lie. I'll get to questions in a minute. I'm going to get through some stuff first. The alcohol lie. We are sold the belief that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, to relax and to reward ourselves. Now, we've got people here from all over the world, lots of UK people, lots of Americans. Can you relate to that? That when you were growing up, your culture, our culture, it tells us that story. It tells us that in our peer groups, in our media, in our culture. When I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s in the UK, that belief that, and I want to tell you, it's not just alcohol, it was being drunk. That was my culture. Who relates to this? Who's British or American? I think it's the same in both our cultures. It wasn't just having a drink, it was being drunk is literally the best way to have fun, best way to enjoy yourself, best way to fit in, best way to connect, all of that kind of stuff. And I never questioned that. I just thought it was true. I just thought I just thought I had to figure out a way to manage it better. That I wasn't managed. Everyone else could manage it, but I couldn't manage it. Who here can see that they have bought into that lie that alcohol is the best way to get all of those things? So that's why we try really, really, really hard to get alcohol to work for us, because we believe if we don't have alcohol, we won't be able to get access to those things. And who wants to live a life without fun and excitement and belonging and connection and like who? It sounds awful, right? Those things are what makes life life. So that's why we try really, really hard to figure out making alcohol work for us. Does everybody relate to that? Uno saying, yes, I'm on day 20 and feel, what if I'm not able to be fun anymore? I'm going to, first of all, you need to know this. Nobody shows up in front of me by accident. No one. No, people who, like my husband barely drinks. I know a few people who drink very occasionally, right? They don't need to be here. If you are here, if you have found me, you are here for the right reasons. And I'm going to say, if you think your drinking has been fun, what we're usually referring to, what we try and do is we try and get back to how our drinking was 10, 20, 30 years ago. I'm going to say if you're here, it probably hasn't been fun for a while, or when it was fun, the cost was also very, very high. Does that make sense, Una? Alcohol takes more than it gives, yeah. It seems fun at the time, but the good news is we don't need alcohol to have fun. Okay. So, first of all, how do you know if you have a problem with alcohol? People with an alcohol problem, they do 4 things. It's not about how often you drink, how much you drink, or what happens when you drink. It's literally these 4 things. People with an alcohol problem, they drink alcohol, they think about drinking alcohol, they think about not drinking alcohol, and they recover from drinking alcohol. And if you do all of those 4 things, then you're in the right place. Is everybody in the right place? I want to say the biggest giveaway is thinking about not drinking. It's the thinking about not drinking alcohol that is the biggest giveaway. The doing dry January, taking a break, I'm just going to drink the weekends, not during the week, all of that kind of stuff. Who has done that? So when you have a problem with alcohol, this is what you sacrifice. You sacrifice your bandwidth, which is your energy and your space to think thoughts. And alcohol, as you age, you're just going to have less and less bandwidth to spend, right? I don't have as much bandwidth as I did when I was 25. I'm sure you don't either. So this is what you're giving up. You're giving up energy and space to think thoughts. And I just want to say, here's the thing. I gave up probably 50% of my bandwidth to alcohol, a good 50%. It dominated a lot of my life. I still got a college degree. I still got pretty decent jobs. I traveled all over the world. You can do a lot on 50, 60, 70% bandwidth, but what you can't do is emotionally grow the way that you're meant to. You can get a job, you can raise a family, but you can't grow into the person that you're meant to be because you don't have enough bandwidth. Does that make sense? How much bandwidth do you think you're spending on alcohol? Put it in the chat. 20, 30, 40%? Let me know. Oh, yeah, Kim, it's exhausting putting all the rules in. Yeah. So there is yeah, put it in the chat. What is the percent? Sharon is saying 70, Jeanette 30, 70. Yeah, it's a lot. Think about alcohol all the time, 35 to 40 to 50%. It's a lot. It's too much. Just think of what you would be able to do with your life if you weren't spending that bandwidth. Wouldn't it be amazing? What would you do? Now, this is where you lose me a bit. I'm 42 and have a GED. I feel like you can't relate. I'm not. Do you want to expand on that? Because I'm not totally sure what you mean. And I want to say everyone's drinking is different. We all have different experiences, but see if you, when we get to the end of this, Nat, if you relate to what's underneath. Okay, so there's a process to stopping drinking. First of all, we all try the holy grail of moderation. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to moderate our drinking, which is basically we're trying to drink without all of the nasty consequences. Who has tried here to do that? Who has tried to like stick just to wine and not spirits, or have a glass of water in between, or who here has taken a break, all of that kind of stuff, like, oh, I'm just going to limit myself to 2 drinks no matter what, right? Who's done all of those things? So first of all, we do the holy grail of moderation, and I'll explain in a minute why that doesn't work. It's also exhausting, isn't it? Completely exhausting. And then we kind of think about stopping, but what stops us from stopping is the fear of missing out. Like we're just if I stop drinking, I'm going to miss out. Now, it's very hard to define what we're going to miss out on, but we have a very strong feeling that if we stop drinking, we will be missing out. Who has that feeling? Then what happens after that is we finally accept that we can't drink. And I want to tell you, when you first accept that, it's probably going to feel devastating. It felt devastating to me. I felt completely devastated at the thought of stopping drinking. I thought I was giving up my life. I was never going to have fun again. My life was going to be boring and gray. But the reason I stopped was I had really, really bad anxiety and panic attacks. And I came to realize that the only way for my anxiety to get better was if I stopped drinking alcohol. So I reluctantly accepted that I had to stop, very reluctantly. And you're going to go through the grief process. So bargaining is when we're trying to figure out like the third door, like the secret way to keep drinking without the consequences. You're going to go through anger. It's not fair. Why me? Everyone else is fine. We're going to go through sadness. And then eventually we want to get to acceptance, where we accept that we are people who cannot drink. Then we need to begin to change our habits so that we have different habits. And then we need to work on our emotional sobriety. And if you work on your emotional sobriety, that's what embeds sobriety permanently. So that's the process that you have to go through. And I don't think people like really talk enough about this, and people don't understand that you have to go through all of these processes. Now, you could go through these in, some people can go through them in a few weeks, a few months. But this is all of the stages that you need to go through. Does this make sense? Yeah, Helena's saying, finding out there are more people than you think that don't drink. Yeah, that was a big shock to me as well. I thought everybody drank, and I thought everyone not just drank, but drank and got like wrecked the way I did. Leslie's saying, I drink for the mind alteration, not the taste. I want to get drunk to change how I feel. Yeah, and that's why stopping drinking is not enough, Leslie. That's why you need to work on emotional sobriety. And I'm going to explain that a little bit today, but more tomorrow. Now, I feel like because of my age that I can't relate to all of you that I look up to, 27 but no education. Oh, Nat, what all you're doing is telling yourself a limiting belief story. That's all you're doing. You're just telling yourself the story that you're not good enough and this isn't going to work for you. That's just a limiting belief story. Good news, guys. You don't give up anything when you get sober. You only gain. This was shocking to me. You can get to the land of fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relaxing and rewarding yourself without alcohol, and it's better. That's the thing. It's actually better. It's better than and fun, sober fun is better than drinking fun. And there's no cost. There's no cost to your health. There's no cost to your wallet. There's no cost to your relationships or opportunities or work. There's no cost. I was about 18 months sober when I was going out with some friends. I think we were at a big concert, and like I'm at the front, we're at the front, and our favorite band is playing, and I was like, where are they? And the friends I was with were drinking, and they kept missing all of the good songs because they were going to the bar and then they were going to the restroom because they were going to the bar. And in that moment, I realized I'm having more fun than they are. I am dancing, I am singing, and I'm not missing anything. They're the ones who's missing stuff because they're we paid a lot of money once in a lifetime to see this band, and they're prioritizing that they need to have a drink. So that will happen to you one day. You will realize that you are having more fun than the people who are drinking. Now, I'm also going to tell you that's probably not going to happen on day 30. It might happen on day 60. It might be 6 months. It's different for everybody, but it's a gradual process, but stay with it because it's worth it. Okay, so why you drink? I call this alcohol assumption, right? It was always assumed that we would drink alcohol, right? When I grew up, and I'm just wondering if this was the same in your culture, it's just assumed that you're going to get a job, you're probably going to get a car, and you're going to drink alcohol, right? Not drinking alcohol was never presented to me as a lifestyle option. And it's really only presented if you're a part of a particular religion, like being a Mormon or a Muslim, or maybe there's some kind of like real health issue or something. Otherwise, the culture that we grow up in, it just assumes you're going to drink alcohol. And I'm going to tell you, that's kind of one of my life's mission is I want to make not drinking alcohol like being a vegetarian. That it's just something like some people don't drink, nobody comments in it, nobody cares, and you're catered for. But does that make sense? It was always assumed that we weren't ever given an option. And also in the UK, to be honest, it's not that you were just going to drink, you were going to drink and get drunk. So we've ended up in a place where alcohol becomes the answer to how we are feeling. And alcohol has inserted itself in every area of our lives. This still kind of shocks me, to be really honest with you, especially since I became a parent. Alcohol inserts itself everywhere. Have you noticed this? I remember living in New York and walking past yoga studios, and on a Friday night, they had yoga and wine. Wine is not something that goes with yoga. Neither's parenting, by the way. But children, 2-year-olds' birthday parties. Alcohol's inserted itself everywhere. So it's just everywhere we look, and it becomes the answer to how we're feeling. Very quickly. This is why we drink. We have outsourced the management of our emotions to alcohol. Very, very quickly, we drink because of how we feel. Who relates to this? We drink because we feel stressed. We drink because of social anxiety. I'm going to talk a bit more about that later on as well. We drink to manufacture fun. We drink to fit in because it's expected, because we don't like how we feel, and because we're emotional teenagers. Who agrees with all of that? Let me know in the chat. Kim, we drink because we don't know how not to. Yeah. So can everyone begin to see why stopping drinking isn't enough? Because if this is what's driving the car, we need to get to this stuff. Because when you stop drinking, you're still going to have stress, probably social anxiety, a need to have fun, to fit in. And you're going to have difficult feelings and emotions that you don't know how to deal with. Yeah. Lisa, again, that's a perception, not a truth. Lisa's saying it's easier to drink than deal with my emotions. Actually, it's not, but that's how you perceive it. The thing is, alcohol works in that minute, doesn't it? We drink. I used to feel relief once I'd made the decision to drink before even having alcohol in my body. So knowing I was going to drink would give me relief. And then alcohol like numbs those emotions, but then of course it makes everything worse the next day. So that's a perception. Because outsourcing has a cost. We have two opportunities to learn and develop emotional intelligence. So this is kind of my jam. I talk about this a lot when emotional intelligence is what emotional sobriety is. So you have two opportunities to learn emotional intelligence. When you are young, so when you were a child, we ideally would have grown up in an environment where we learn how to deal with our emotions in a healthy way. I didn't grow up in that environment. I'm wondering if anyone else did. Did anyone grow up in an environment where they were given, it was role modeled healthy ways to deal with their emotions? I grew up in an environment where it was basically you have to push them down. So I didn't grow up with parents who were able to help me deal with anger or frustration or sadness or disappointment. The messages I were given was how you feel isn't important, push it down. Same in my school experience and that kind of stuff. So we have another opportunity to learn emotional intelligence, which is kind of as we go along as a young adult, right? When you are a young adult, you're going to experience, the bumps and bruises of life. You're going to experience things that are going to be difficult, but they're going to help you grow. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our messes, except I didn't. By the time I was 15, alcohol was already the solution to anything I was feeling. So what would happen is I would go through, difficult like relationship stuff or work stuff or friendship stuff. And I didn't learn any life lessons because I just numbed my feelings. So alcohol stole those opportunities from me. I didn't learn how to be any emotional intelligence because I missed two opportunities. And I wonder if anybody had the same experience. Yeah, Helene, no, I was not allowed to have a bad day. Yeah. Yeah, again, my mother was an anxious nightmare. Yeah. Lots of us had very difficult parenting situations and family situations. And that's not necessarily a disaster if like maybe we had a good relationship with a grandmother or a teacher or a neighbor. But I just grew up in a culture where nobody knew how to deal with their feelings. So let's talk a little bit about the science bit. Okay. Or why we drink when we really don't want to. So this is all to do with dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in your brain, and we need this chemical because our survival depends on it. So dopamine is the reward chemical. So hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we were, living in caves and all of that kind of stuff, we would find blueberries, or we would find clean water, or we would shoot a deer with our bow and arrow. And when those things happened, we would get a dopamine hit. And that's your brain going, oh, that feels really good. Do more of that, because it's your survival's based on it. Does that make sense to everybody? So when you do something based on your survival, which is from thousands and thousands of years ago, you would get a dopamine hit. Our brain chemistry has been hijacked because, and a lot of it is this, by the way. We, back in the day, we were getting, a few dopamine hits a day. We can get hundreds in a day now. So our brains are working against us because our brains want the dopamine hit. I just want that. I just want that. Just want that. Just want that. Which is why we do things even if we don't want to. Like, and again, the phone thing is a big thing. Like how many times we look at the phone. Like that was all engineered that way. Like the constant phone checking is because there's a dopamine reward in our system. It's the same with alcohol. Our brains, alcohol creates a dopamine reward, and our brain has confused that. It's a dopamine hit. So this thing must be essential for our survival. So we want to do this thing because of the dopamine hit. And that's why we want to drink even when we don't want to. Wanting something is not the same as liking it. If you guys think about your drinking, how much you've wanted to have alcohol, but if you look back, is it like, has it actually been a likable experience? Especially those of you who drink on your own. Like at the end of my drinking, I did a lot of drinking on my own. I just didn't really want to, but I didn't know how not to. It wasn't really that I liked it. It's just, I didn't know how to not do it. The reason for that is that the reward system in your brain has been hijacked. It just wants dopamine hits, and alcohol gives it dopamine hits. Is this making sense to everybody? So we have to give our brain time to recover. The good news is that it can. It doesn't matter how old you are. My eldest client is 76. She's be 2 years sober in the summer. So everybody's different. Everyone has very different biology, ages. So that's, it's going to be different for everyone. But it takes 18 to 254 days to change a bad habit, which is to change that neuro pathway with the dopamine hit. This is really important. Write this down. We must replace it with something better, and we can't feel deprived. Don't try and stop drinking. Like I had a client once, she's like, right, I'm stopping drinking. I'm also doing Whole30 and I'm not eating sugar. And like, don't do that. You do not want to set yourself up for deprivation because it will feel really, really bad. Your brain chemistry wants to be rewarded. So just know that your brain chemistry wants to be rewarded. Really important. And that's why you can't moderate, because of the dopamine reward system. Because once that starts pinging, it's like, more please, more please, more please. And moderation takes effort. It's really hard work, and you constantly have to make decisions. Alcohol changes your brain chemistry and impairs decision making. We lie to ourselves. We have this perception, we delude ourselves that this time is going to be different. This time I'll just have to, this time I won't do shots, this time whatever. This time I'll only drink at the weekend. How many times have you told yourself that this time you're going to do it different? You're going to be strong this time. You're going to be determined. These are all the moderation is a mountain. And again, for what reason? Why put like this much hard work? Why? What's alcohol giving you that is really like worth this much effort? It's, if you remember, the reason we do that is that belief that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relaxing, and rewarding ourselves, and the fear of missing out. The reason that you put this much effort in is because of the belief of what alcohol is going to bring you this time, but it's a lie because alcohol's not delivering on its promises. Make sense to everybody? That fear of missing out, you know, people say, is it real or is it fantasy? What would you be missing out on if you stopped drinking? What, the hangovers, the self-loathing, the messing up your relationships, the missing days of work? What exactly is it? We have to ask ourselves, this fear of missing out, is it real or is it fantasy? Because at this point, I think it's fantasy. It's a perception. What would you be missing out on exactly? And I'm going to tell you, whatever you've got on your list, you can get all of those things sober and they're better. Connection, fun, belonging, being in the moment, all of those things you can get sober. You do not need alcohol to have any of the experiences that you desire. So one of the big reasons that people drink is social anxiety. And I always have a lot of sympathy for people who experience social anxiety. That was just a huge part of my life. I had really, really bad anxiety from the age of 18. I got sober at 27, and it kind of began to pretty much go in that first year of sobriety. I really believed I was the only one who felt like that. I really believed everybody else was fine. Social anxiety is really, really common. I didn't realize that until I became a psychotherapist and I started working in this field. Social anxiety is really, really common. It's the fear of what other people think of us, fitting in, feeling good enough, low self-esteem, don't know how to interact. Yeah. I want to tell you, if this is you, you're not alone. And this is one of the big reasons that people drink. They just get so anxious about how they're going to be social. And that's one of the things I talk about in my program, is how to navigate social events without alcohol. I want to tell you, it takes time, but over time it will get easier and better. And I've done everything sober. Like, I could not walk into the bar, to a dinner party, to any social event, including my university lectures when I was at university, without having a drink inside of me. I was so scared. And you can do everything sober. Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It's just horrible. Social anxiety is just horrible. So using alcohol to manage anxiety. So I, again, thought I was the only one who did this. Who does pre-drinking? So I would need to drink before the drinking event in secret, so that I had enough of a buzz to go into whatever the drinking event was. And then I'd end up with the worst anxiety the next day. Oh my God, it was so bad. But I didn't care about the next day because the next day felt a million miles away and I just needed to get through those like hours up in front of me. Yeah, I was the same, Leslie. It was anxiety and everything. Yeah. Pre-drinking, again, not remotely original. Thought I was the only one who was doing that. Apparently not. Does everyone know what I mean by anxiety? Again, awful, awful experience. Fear is a very close cousin of anxiety, and fear, I think, is the engine that drives an alcohol problem. This is what got me sober. So when I was about 6 months sober, I didn't identify, like, I didn't know if it was going to be a forever thing. I didn't know, like, I really didn't feel that I could imagine myself not drinking again. And I really didn't understand why I drank. And I got sober in the 12-step fellowships because that's all there was 25 years ago. And I remember sitting in a meeting and hearing a man talk about fear of everything, anything, and nothing. And that's why he drank. And I sat there going, oh, I thought I was the only one. That is the moment my life changed. That is the moment that I understood why I drank. That was the moment I became crystal clear of why I drank, and that I needed to stop and I needed to do something about it, because I would have sold my firstborn child at that point to have been free of fear and anxiety. And if you feel the same, I want you to know you're in the right place and there is a way out. Like, being driven by fear is the worst possible thing. It takes over our lives. We have to understand so this is why you have to understand why you drink, right? We have to be able to deal with the fear. Now, there's lots of ways that I teach my clients to do that. I mean, one of the things I'm just going to tell you that helps with anxiety and fear, like in the moment, is EFT, which is tapping. But I will tell you, over time, that fear and anxiety is going to decrease. It's just going to get a lot more like the anxiety, like, I want to tell you, you're never going to be free of fear and anxiety because it's in our DNA. But it's just like normal, right? Like, I'm going to feel frightened about, I don't know, like my kids, or it's just that it's all manageable. It's not the irrational, took me over, can't even see or function. Like, that will go. Does this make sense to everybody? Is everyone recognizing themselves? Well, Leslie, you're in the right place. I'm really glad you're here. We have to manage fear. Now, the reason that I said that is we have core emotions programmed into our DNA. We need them for our survival. Fear, we need that, right? Fear is an emotion that we feel physically. Everybody knows what it feels like to feel physically frightened. And we need that because our ancestors needed to have that jolt to make a decision about whether they were going to run from the saber-toothed tiger or they were going to fight the saber-toothed tiger, right? We need fear to survive. If we didn't have fear, none of us would have made it out of childhood. Like, we need healthy doses of fear to kind of make better decisions, all of that kind of stuff. But what has happened with your fear, this is what happened with my fear, is it got way out of balance. So being able to manage your fear is an essential tool of sobriety. And I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow in how to stop. But just know this is one of the things that you have to be able to do if you want to be able to stay sober. It's a skill. You can absolutely learn that. It's what I teach in a lot of my programs. Yeah, thank you for confirming that, Lisa. Was 15 months sober and I was only ever anxious about real threatening things. Daily anxiety just disappeared. Yeah, like, you'll just have not, what we want to have is appropriate emotional responses to events, right? There's going to be things that sometimes make you feel frightened, but that's an appropriate emotional response to an event. Loneliness and belonging, I think, is one of the other drivers of an alcohol problem. I think loneliness is going to kill you. Loneliness was one of the biggest feelings that I had when I was drinking. I was very, very lonely. I felt like I was behind a glass screen and everyone was one side getting on with their lives, and I was on my own. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I fitted in, and I didn't feel good enough. And I isolated myself a lot because of that. Does everyone relate to that feeling? That feeling of loneliness and the need to belong is really, really important. Yeah, loneliness, that is one of the things we have to solve. We have to solve loneliness. Yeah, I'm glad you will relate to this. You're in the right place. Yeah. And again, I know exactly what that is. I know exactly how that feels. I have been there. Please know that I've been there. This is one of the reasons that you drink. And we have to stop. Do you know, it's so funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I was remembering, like, one of the things I used to do towards the end of my drinking, like, I'd go out on, like, Friday night, I'd come home and I'd go out and get like 2 bottles of wine. And then I drink and I get my buzz on, and then I put my favorite music on and I dance around the living room. And I just kind of had this like image, like, I was like in my 20s in London, like one of the most exciting cities in the world. And on a Friday night, all I could do was just drink on my own and dance around the room. I didn't have anyone to be with or anywhere to go. Nobody cared where I was or what I was doing. And it kind of broke my heart. like that memory of how awful that was. Yeah. This is one of the things we have to solve, and you can solve it. I am no different from you. That's why I showed you those pictures. If I can do it, so can you. I just need you to believe it. The key to getting sober is to keep showing up. I think one of the other engines that drive our drinking is shame and guilt. And they just multiply, right? We feel really bad. We feel ashamed of ourselves. We don't like that feeling. So we drink to take away that feeling. And then we do something that makes us feel more guilty and ashamed. And it just goes on and on and on and on. So I think shame and guilt is also one of the big reasons that we drink. So what happens is when you experience all of those things, you leave yourself by degrees, right? You don't even notice it's happening. The fear, the anxiety, the shame, the loneliness, you leave yourself. And then one day you wake up and you just have become someone you don't recognize. Does everyone identify with this? Sobriety is about the journey back to yourself. Sobriety is about reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your authentic self. That's what sobriety is. We just leave ourselves. Our behavior, what I did, what I said, how I showed up in the world meant I just became, because of my loneliness, because of my fear, because of my anxiety, because of my shame and guilt, and because I needed to drink to deal with those things, it meant that I became a fake person, a false person, a manipulative person, a person who lied, and I didn't recognize myself. That's not who I am. I don't act like that in this world. But that's who I became. Yes. So we have to know what the problem is so we can stop. Remember, today could be the day that everything changes. So I want to be very clear about what being sober actually means. Sobriety is when we feel comfortable in our own skins and we have emotional mastery. And what that means is, it means that I like myself and I have mastery over my emotions instead of my emotions owning me. Liking yourself, when I was over here, I didn't like myself. I really didn't like myself. The journey back to yourself is the journey about loving and liking and accepting yourself. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm really not perfect. I mess up all the time. I'm a very normal, messy, imperfect human being. But none of that has any impact on my worth as a human being. And as I travel through life, I have access to the full spectrum of my emotions, the really enjoyable ones and the really uncomfortable ones. And I know how to deal with them. Before, I used to feel fear or anxiety or shame or guilt or jealousy or whatever it was. And all I knew was drink, get a drink. Now I'm able to manage my emotions. Your emotions are your guidance system to get through life. So emotional mastery is about learning how to master your emotions, because then you don't want to drink. When you can master your emotions and navigate through life, then you don't want to drink. Which is why sobriety is 10% not drinking alcohol. You need to do that bit, and 90% emotional sobriety. For those of you who have stopped and started again, can you see that the reason that you started again is because you weren't emotionally sober? Lisa's 44 and have drank for 20 years. I'm not sure who I actually am. Yeah, that's the joy of getting sober, is discovering yourself. Don't miss your life. Don't go through this precious life that you have and miss the main event. And the main event is who you really are. And if you don't, you're like, Veronica, I have no idea who I am. Do not miss discovering that. When I got sober, I didn't know if I liked hamburgers or hot dogs. Like I was such a people pleaser. I liked whatever you liked. So when I got sober, I was like, well, maybe I like hamburgers. I'll give that a try. Oh no, actually it's hot dogs, right? It was like that simple and basic. That is a beginning of a joyous journey of discovering who you are. Don't miss that, because you did not come here to argue with yourself about whether you're going to have a drink today or not. That is not why you're here. Does that make sense? Lisa, yeah, it's 59 and don't even begin to know what I like. And I live my whole life for others and who they needed me to be. Lisa, be on the square that you're on. The square that you're on is there's a lot that you don't know yet. Just be on the square of I'm somebody who wants to begin the journey of not drinking alcohol. Just start there and you will discover who you are. And I'm going to tell you, it's the most joyous and amazing thing is to discover who you really are. So we need a bridge from this land of alcohol to the land of sobriety. And I'm going to just take a few minutes. If you have questions, put them in the chat because I'll answer your questions as well. I want to just spend a couple of minutes telling you about I'm so excited about this program that I have. It is the best deal I've ever done. So I just want you to know that. We need to get to this land. We've established that not drinking, just putting down the booze is not enough. We need a program and structure. We need a guide and we need a community. And that's what I offer. I really encourage you to check me out. I have tons of stuff on social media, on YouTube. I've written 3 books and I've had a podcast that's been going for 7 years. So I'm a pretty good guide to getting sober. I have something called the Soberful Mastermind, which will help you break free from alcohol and build a life without it. Now, let me tell you how fabulous this is. Okay, we know that alcohol's not our friend. And we want all of the good stuff. Here's what you get. When you join the mastermind, I kind of just want to skip to this. You get lifetime membership. You join once, it doesn't end. You stay as long as you want to. So when you join, you're going to get a getting started kit. We do monthly behavior change lessons. There's 2 live calls a month. I bring guest experts in. I have a private community. You join once, you stay as long as you want to. I'm going to tell you lifetime membership. This is, long story short, I'm working less basically. This is going to eventually be the only program that I have. Lifetime membership, minimum of 12 months, but I do intend this program to be open for years. So if you join now, you get access to this for as long as you need. You get access to all my previous recordings and you'll get coupons and deals on any digital stuff or retreats or things that I do. Also, if you have checked me out and you feel like, yes, I want to do this, I want to join your program. If you join in the next 48 hours, I did this in January with a program that I launched and it worked really well and I really loved it. You get Voxer coaching with me. Voxer is an app on your phone. It's free to download and you can message me privately. I can kind of show you there. Like I've got messages from clients. Every Wednesday, I will check the messages from you. You can ask me questions. You can ask for help. You can say, Veronica, I'm really stuck on this. Veronica, I really don't understand that. Veronica, this is my situation. What advice do you have? And every Wednesday, I will reply to you. And you get that for 8 weeks, the first 8 weeks. So just to help you along and get you started, this is just only for people who've come to this masterclass and only if you sign up in the next 48 hours. But if you know for sure you want to do this, get this bonus. I really enjoy it because we have a lot of back and forth and it's a great way to get started and keep going. Here's what we're going to cover this year. So this is what you get. So in April, we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of sobriety. And that's based on my book. I'm going to talk about how you can start using the 5 pillars of sobriety to get sober. May, we're going to talk about the journey back to yourself. June, how that's about balance. July, letting go of your past. You can see it all there. September, dealing with difficult people, essential life skill. Essential. And Carrie's going to put the link in for those of you guys who want to join and sign up. So this is the schedule for this year. And again, you can keep going into next year and we can do that. This is the best deal. Early bird sign up, 50% off. No recurring payments. You pay once, you stay for life. And there's two options. You can pay in full, $997, or you can break that up into 3 payments. Bonuses, Voxer for 8 weeks. You get it. Oh, there's a bonus group session. So we start next Tuesday. And you pay the introductory price, not the full price. And here's some testimonials and whatnot. And I would love to answer your questions. Oh, let's go back. That's day 2. Come to day 2 because we're going to be talking about how to stop drinking. Enrollment for the mastermind is open now. That's what we cover. That's the box of it. Please put your questions in and I'll answer them before we end. These are all the things you get. And this will come out into an email. Carrie's put the link there. So you're going to get a guide, you're going to get a program, and you're going to get a community. 1 payment, done. Let me see. Okay, sessions are in the UK. They will be, sorry, I'm just doing the time. I think they're 7 p.m. in the evening. They're in the evening. It's $997 US dollars, Helene. So it's 50% off. The program is actually $2,000, but early birds get it for 50% off. Please go ahead and do due diligence on me. You really need to go and check me out and feel confident and comfortable that I'm the person to help you. But this is just really one of my favorite things to do. Doing the live calls, you can come to the live calls. The live calls are recorded, so if you miss one, you can watch the recording. Live calls, what I do is I usually do some teaching on whatever we're learning that month. Each month we're going to learn some behavior change, some different ways to become emotionally sober, change your behavior, build sobriety habits, that kind of stuff. Who has questions? How was that? Who had a kind of big aha, like, oh my God, why did nobody tell me this before? You're welcome, Kim. I'm well yet. Leslie, how can you help me to stop the voice in my head that tells me to drink? The desire. So there's several things. What that is, Leslie, I'll tell you what it is now. Let me just tell you what it is now. We all have a voice in our head, and it's called the voice of the ego. So that voice in your head, Leslie, is your ego voice. The purpose of the ego is to keep you safe. So if you were standing on the edge of a busy street and lorries and trucks were going past, you would have a voice in your head go, whoa, step back, right? If you were standing near the edge of some like deep water, that voice in your head will go, ooh, step back a bit, right? Does that make sense, Leslie? The job of the ego is to keep you safe, and it believes the best way to keep you safe is if everything stays familiar and nothing changes. So you live currently in the land of alcohol, and even though it's very unpleasant, it's very, very, very familiar. You know how it goes, right? You know what that looks like and how it goes. I'm inviting you to join the land of sobriety. The land of sobriety is completely unknown to you. How are you going to cope? How are you going to deal with weekends? How are you going to be able to go to that party? How are you going to... So there's a lot of unknowns, which means there's a lot of anxiety and fear. The ego is like, we have no idea what that looks like. Like, how am I going to keep you safe in this land of sobriety? No. We want to stay where everything's familiar. Thank you very much. So when we make a decision that we don't want to drink, off we go. And then we reach this wall. The wall divides the land of drinking and the land of sobriety. And when you reach that wall, that ego voice is going to kick in, and it's going to say things like, oh, you're not that bad. Oh, you could just have a couple. Oh, like what? Like everyone else drinks. Like you just like you'll be really boring if you stop drinking anyway. How are you going to have fun? Like you'll never cope with it anyway. And that voice in our head just breaks us down, and we make a decision that we're going to drink, and we just end up staying in the same place. So Leslie, it will change in time, but those first 15 to 30 days, this is what I want you to do. There's that voice again. Veronica told me about that. That's the ego voice. It just wants to keep me in the familiar. Thank you for keeping me safe. I'm going to do the next right thing. What is the next right thing? And then do that. Having a community really helps, Leslie. Don't, like, I'm going to say this to all of you, don't do this by yourself. It's really, really hard to do this by yourself. Don't do this by yourself. Have a community. You need to kind of break it down. It's going to be really, really simple. You need to keep it really, really simple at the beginning. You are going to experience intense cravings and triggers, but you're also, that's going to pass as well. There's lots of other things you can do, but I don't have time to go through them here right now, but come to the call tomorrow, Leslie, because I'll go through all of those now. Any other questions about the mastermind? Enrollment's open. Join in the next 48 hours and get the bonus, because then you'll be able to message me every Wednesday and I'll reply to you. It's secure, it's private. I'm the only person who sees it, by the way. This is not, it's completely private. Nobody else sees it but me. You're welcome, Lisa. Thank you for coming. Yeah, the ego just wants to keep you small and it wants to keep you safe. And by the way, you've all navigated around the ego before. That's what we have to learn to do, is we have to navigate around it into the new thing. If you hadn't been able to navigate around it, you would all be still at home in your childhood bedroom. Whenever you do a new thing, go to college, start a new job, all of that kind of stuff, you're going to navigate around the ego. That's just how it is. Yes, you can share the recording, Una. Go ahead. Oh, thank you, Andrea. Really, really glad that you came. Come back tomorrow. And if it's right for you, join the Soberful Mastermind. This is the best deal, best offer I've ever had. And it's the best program. This will eventually be my only program. Darlene, my oldest client was 76. She's now 2 years sober. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can find, she's actually she came on my podcast last year. She's fabulous. Her name's Kathy. It's never too late and you're not too old. Any other questions? I will see you tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to everybody who's jumping into the Soberful Mastermind already. We get started next week with our bonus session. Sharon, I have a lot of knowledge about what we have discussed but not put into practice. Thanks tonight. I'm ready for the best journey ever. Yeah, Sharon. Yay. Thank you. See you tomorrow. All right, everybody. Take care. See you then.